I have a stand over there, and it's one of my best stands. And what I have here, you'll see, sit, access, sit, another trail going right to it, stick, another trail going right to it. So it's my hub I've designed. But behind it is a deep ditch that goes all the way from back there at that hub in front of the truck all the way up to about 40 yards.
So these are converging at some point within archery distance.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And 50 yards from the edge of the bedding area, right?
Yeah.
And at the top of it, and so there's 5 fingers there. Instead of that buck going up and down all those, he's coming around that end.
Yeah.
And my travel corridor does that for me.
So you're hunting right on bedding areas.
Because I have had the experience that I'm sure I can get there without getting busted.
That's where I'm going to, is set control now. And stand approach and stand placement are all key elements in that. But scent control, and I know, you know, I've watched your videos from years ago on scent control, and I've got my own videos, and people think we're absolutely crazy. Can you talk about, you know, what your current thinking is on it? Because I know what it was a few years ago, but I don't know if it's...
There is not one thing that you can do that's going to help your hunting success, harvest success, more than scent control, period. Not one other thing. And it will help you more at day 4 and day 5 on the property than what it even does the first day on the property, right? So my thinking about it now is it's a lot of work.
Yeah. But you're still doing the same kind of preparation that you did in your early videos?
I have got a little lazy, being straight honest with you, right? And I'm not doing as good as what I was, and I know when I walk out the door I'm not doing as good, right?
Yeah.
And so I know what it takes to get to that level.
Yeah.
And I've had the deer standing there trying to get my wind, and I don't care what anybody says, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
But I know it when I walked out the door whether I did it or not, right? And so, you know, it takes me a lot of work, and I have switched my residence a couple times over the last few years. I haven't got completely set back up correctly that I need to make it easier, right? But yes, back to, there's nothing that you can do that's going to be more beneficial. One other thing that you can do is when you make a noise, just stop moving, right? And so those are the 2 simplest things you can possibly do in this world. Not stink, and then any type of stick breaking, because it is a 200-pound or 150-pound thing that just snapped that stick, right? Not a half-pound squirrel. They can tell that crack, right? And so,
they hear better in the high frequencies than we do, although they hear about the same as us in the other frequencies. But high frequency, like a snapping stick, is a big deal.
And so those little things are huge, and so many people don't pay attention to them because they think that they're on a level they don't need to do. They're going to play the wind, right?
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing, because I had for years and years and years sat there with one of those little squirt bottles, and most of the time, 3 to 4 times a day it's changing on you. And when that sun sets...
With milkweed seeds or whatever they... pods.
Yeah. All that stuff's going to show you that you're messing up, right? Whatever you're using.
Right.
And so when the sun sets, it's going to change again almost every time. So I just don't see that...
I would say that scent control is so much beyond everything else that there's just no comparison. And a lot of people don't understand the difference, where you can go and sit in the same stand day after day after day for a month, and your deer sightings are increasing over that time because there's pressure coming from the outside property, and they're pushing them in and they don't smell you. So I've recorded, in my book, I talk about the difference between October, November, and December. My buck sightings per doe seen go way up in December, even though in Michigan half the bucks have been unkilled already, because they're getting pushed into my property by scent from the neighbor's property and other activities, and they don't know I'm there. So that extreme scent control is just beyond anything else.
You know, I was killing big deer on public land all my life, right?
Yeah.
And you guys go, oh, how do you do it on public land, scent control?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? Well, I get out in my spot, and somebody else is coming my way with a flashlight or whatever. I just shine a flashlight at them, right? And they stop. So they brought this stinky trail all the way to that point, and then they do this, right? And the next guy does the same thing.
Yeah.
So the last buck I killed, I was 152, 154 on public land here in Indiana. I had 8 different guys walk by me that morning, right? But I'd see them coming at a distance because I stand and look all the time, right? Anything gets close to me, I know it's there.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I was the only spot that had no stink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like 1:30 in the afternoon when I killed him.
Yeah.
Right? But again, it's that. Go ahead, guys. Keep walking in circles and stinking all that up.
Yeah.
You're just going to keep blowing them in here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Really important.
The deer
And that's
live
really
there.
important for a small property.
It's the most important
I'm
thing on a
typically
small
not going to
property.
hunt my 43 acres until the 3rd week of October. The DNR tells me it's legal to hunt it on October 1st, but I want to let all this stuff happen. All my neighbors are going to be pressuring those deer, and they hunt the first 2 weeks of October, and some of them get big bucks, and more power to them. I'm happy for them, but they're pushing deer onto my property during the daylight hours.
Right.
And then I'm going to come in and have a real show and enjoy myself videoing all these deer all day long.
And they're leaving scent on their properties that could last for 24, 48 hours if those deer can smell, depending on what they got going on, grease on their boots or just whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so it isn't just why they're there, they didn't see any deer bust their scent. It's for a lot of hours after you leave there that you still contaminate and cause trouble that they don't want to be around it.
Right.
Especially at that time of the year, an immature animal. But
well, I've done experiments where I used to, in September, I would sit up in the 2nd story of my barn. I had 7 acres of deer habitat. I've told you about that before. Just deer all through September, all over the place back there. And if I put on normal hunting boots and spritz them with a little bit of spray, perfume, I walk back there, it's going to clear it in daylight for 2 or 3 days, at least. And on October 1st, I'm all done watching it because the hunters walk back in behind me and they're gone. I never see them again usually until November or December.
Most of the guys don't understand how negative it actually is because they don't see the negative effects with their eyes because the deer are smelling them at 200 yards.
Yes, exactly.
Or 150 yards away. They're never seeing that deer. And
almost every scent bust happens at a place where you don't see it, and it doesn't happen with blowing and all that. It happens with the deer deciding not to go there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there. I don't.
Yeah, I never busted anything. So we'd be up in those big towers in Iowa, and I'd sit there, and that's when I was doing all the filming, right? I mean, I thought I was going to be, you know, like a video guy, right? And so, but back then, they'd take off walking, and I'd film them walking to their stand, right? They had no clue that they get up there close to that plot and those deer go out the left side of the thicket, right? And I'm sitting back here 300 yards away watching it, and then they're like, man, all those deer come in down at that other end tonight. I know what I'm going to do tomorrow night. I'm going to go down to
move over there.
End,
but they've cleared out. They're not going to come back there for a couple
that's exactly
days.
what happens. But they smelled them coming in, and then I sat there, and I know their access point, you know, how they've done it. And then for 2 or 3 hours, the deer that come through the thicket, and they stop, they smell back and forth, turn around, and walk back. So you just busted those patterns the very first time because they were too lazy to do their scent control.
There's a fundamental understanding of how people deal with money, and that is that using equal amounts of money, they get less pleasure from gaining money than they do pain from losing money. And I think that's part of what explains what happens to deer hunters, because they get a positive reinforcement. So they say, well, I see deer and I don't have scent control. Well, how would you like to see 5 times as many deer and see them in sit after sit after sit and not have your property be depleted over time? It's a psychological thing of, you know, I see them so I don't need it. Well, you have no idea what it would be like if you did practice extreme scent control.
No, absolutely.
It's a tremendous amount of work sometimes if
It
you're not
is.
set up right.
My scent control program has gone, I've backed off quite a bit on it, but the reason is I'm 72 years old now. I only hunt from elevated box blinds. I've elaborately designed those blinds so that my scent is coming out of a smokestack 50 feet above the creek bottom. So I'm walking in the dark and walking out in the dark. I never ever am seen in daylight on that property unless I'm following a blood trail or retrieving a deer. So I don't need the level of scent control that I used to have. So I always had a carbon mask on. I don't wear a carbon mask in that blind because it's all going up out the smokestack. Yeah.
And I'm kind of the same way. Hunting public land, I think it's more important because those deer are more educated and run into more. And when I'm hunting here 4 to 5 days a year, I mean...
But they're smelling you. They know you.
Right.
They know exactly who you are and how you act, and you're not a threat to them all year long.
Right, no, that's it.
Jake Illinger talks about taking his dog for a walk every afternoon right in the middle of the hunting season. Right. And the deer know exactly where they're going. They're going on these trails. And now when Jake walks in and he takes that little side trail into a stand 10 yards away, it doesn't affect them at all.
They
expect his scent there. There's shared areas, and there's their bedroom.
And every experienced guy that in the hunting industry that hadn't done that or had that knowledge that was capable, they said that was the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there are books. Yeah. Well, there are lots of books telling you all kinds of things like that that aren't true. Right. They tell you that you can't manage a 40-acre property for mature bucks, but you can. Yeah.
You can train any animal in the world if you're giving it what it wants. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And so I fire up my chainsaw, they hear that tree come down, you know, they've never been ran around with the chainsaw. They know what that sound is. You know, it don't take them too long.
You know what my record was for cutting trees and having deer come in? I had deer yarded on my property in Hillsdale County, around 120 or so of them. And I came in, spooked them out, went back into a south-facing hillside, cut down a bunch of trees for them. I walked out, went to my friend's house. I left some cameras there. Went over to my friend's house for coffee where I could see that hill, and by the time I drove over there, there were brown bodies all over in that new hinge cutting I had done. And when I finally retrieved the camera a few months later, I think it was 5 minutes when the first deer was in there.
Yeah. I'll see the same thing. If it's a bad winter and I'm up north in some deep snow, they're coming to it. Yeah. Even on properties I haven't worked for years, you know, they're coming to it. But kind of what we're saying here, I've trained, the reason we're here September 12th walking this whole entire property.
And you don't care.
And I don't care. Because I already know what's going to happen, right? These deer, they expect me in here in September because it's the only time I've ever been able to work on my properties because the only time I got, I'm working on everybody else's, right? And I haven't seen any negative about it whatsoever, right? So,
and you still have a high probability of killing something good here.
I think I got it.
Because I've seen a couple of trail camera pictures.
I think I'm going to kill some great deer, right? I mean, I got one that's 5.5, and he's been here the whole entire time. I've been trying to get some size on it. I passed
Has he known you his whole life then?
Oh, he's had to have. Yeah. I passed on him 2 years ago, the 150, that I found the horns down here when I was running my dozer 2 winters ago. And then I got pictures of him last December. I haven't got pictures of him yet, right? He might not have done his fall shift yet. I don't know. Yeah. But no,